it's far better to know how to prevent disease than it is to learn how to cure it. I love to teach people how to prevent disease so that they're never unhealthy, they don't ever feel bad. So we're going to talk about some of these ways of prevention in this program. We hope you'll stay with us.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
I love remedies. I have been gathering remedies from all over the world for the last 45 years, and I'm very happy that I can also learn some things about how to prevent disease. There are so many good things that we can do just using the things of nature that can help us to prevent disease. One of those is sunshine, and Dr. Don Miller is going to talk with you now about the benefits of sunshine. Dr. Miller?
Well, I think one of the greatest benefits of sunshine is it's free. It's up there, it just hangs out, and it gives us all the benefits that we could ever want from any medication, and even more so. You know, one of the biggest problems we have in certain environments is infections, and sunlight is a natural bacterial agent. It will cleanse things. As a matter of fact, if you see an animal that gets itself injured somehow, it will crawl out into the sunshine to heal itself rather than crawl over into the shade. And so there are certainly some wonderful benefits to sunshine. But there's more than that. I've got a list of them here. Besides destroying harmful bacteria, it lowers the blood pressure. Basically, as you get out into the sunshine, it allows your vascular system to relax. Therefore, your heart's not pushing so hard to get the blood through. Your blood pressure goes down. As a matter of fact, you might want to try an experiment. If your blood pressure is mildly elevated, take your blood pressure in the house, check what it is, go outside, give yourself a half-hour sun bath. Now, when I say sun bath, you don't sit there and take off all the clothes and lay there. What you want to do is just let your legs, your arms, your face get exposed to the sun for about a half hour, and then take your blood pressure again. Normally, you will find a significant drop in your blood pressure. If you couple the sunshine with exercise, it goes down even further. And the nice thing is, the effects of that sun bath will maintain itself for a couple of days. And so on days when the sun isn't shining, it takes benefit of the sunshine you got last time it did shine. It decreases blood cholesterol. Cholesterol is a major problem in developed countries, but sunshine will help the cholesterol go down. It increases the vitamin D. Now, it's interesting that increasing the vitamin D is the same way in which it lowers the cholesterol, because we all have cholesterol in our bodies just below the skin layer. As sunlight strikes the skin, it converts the cholesterol into a pre-vitamin D form. And it goes out and becomes, in the liver, into vitamin D. Now, since you've taken the cholesterol out of that layer of the skin where it needs to be, it's been replaced by cholesterol that's flowing in the bloodstream, where it also needs to be. You see, cholesterol is a very needed part of our body. And so now that it has gone down in the bloodstream, it's got to find some cholesterol to replace it there. It's not going to send you out to get a hamburger. What it will do is take cholesterol from plaques that might be building up in your artery walls, therefore bringing you back up to the level. So sunshine is good for both of those things. It lowers excessively high blood sugars. I know a young man, he's not so young anymore, he's in his mid-30s. He is a juvenile diabetic, has had this since he was a very young child. To look at the man, you'd never know he had diabetes. He's physically well-proportioned, his eyesight is good, he's doing extremely well. But he has learned to regulate his body through diet, through exercise, and through sunshine. Sunshine can act as a natural insulin agent, taking glucose into the cells, and so it's a very nice thing. So if you have somebody who's diabetic, sunshine is extremely needed. It increases our white blood cells. Our white blood cells are those armies, the army that God has placed within our bodies to fight infections and diseases. Sunshine will increase the number of the white blood cells. And not only the number, it will also increase their motility through the body. You see, as you get into the sunshine, it can raise your body temperature just a small amount, and any rise in temperature will increase the movement of these particular army soldiers in your system. It lowers respiration rate. Therefore, you're breathing not only slower, but your deeper breaths of air. And most people don't breathe properly in the first place. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it does lower your respiration rate. It strengthens your heart. It slows your resting heart rate. The word resting and heart rate, our heart always rests. It beats and then it rests. It beats and it rests. The slower the heart rate, the longer the rest. And so if you want that muscle to rest, and it's the one muscle in your body that works throughout your entire life. When it stops working, you stop working. It allows the blood to carry more oxygen. Oxygen is absolutely vital to the body. As a matter of fact, they've done some studies. They find that if you take a cell and deprive it of adequate amounts of oxygen, not all oxygen, that would kill it, but you just don't let it get a good, healthy amount of oxygen, within a short period of time, that cell becomes a malignant cell, becomes a cancerous cell. And so by getting more oxygen in the blood, we've got more health to the tissues. It increases our tolerance to stress. We're living in a stressful world. Sunshine seems to, you go out in the sunshine, you lay there, and try it sometime. Stress situation, usually stress happens inside. You go outside, and it seems like the stress just sort of goes away, because the sunlight has a way of taking that stress away. And it prevents cancer of the colon. Isn't that interesting? Sunlight will decrease cancer of the colon. Now there's the negative side of sunlight. You can get too much sunlight and cause sunburns. And every time you cause your skin to be burned, you're setting yourself up for damage down the line, other types of diseases. And so don't let your skin get damaged. Between 10 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, stay out of direct sunlight. But before then and after then, sunlight's not a bad thing to have. Now, that's talking about sun. There's the other, S-O-N, trusting in the Lord, trusting in Jesus, plus trusting in God. And there are many, many studies coming down the pike today that talks about the benefits of belief in something. On the same line, there's been another study showing that a person who believes error as strongly as someone who believes truth, even believing that error will give them a more impaired immune system. So believing in truth, and God is the truth, believe in Him, He will help you. We've seen studies, they've done some studies about people who are prayed for have less coronary events, have less complications. They do a whole lot better. And just that act of asking God to help you, going to somebody who's beyond yourself and say, Lord, I need your help. Just the peace of mind, and peace has a lot to do with our health, can do unbelievable advantages to our health. And so the first two things, sunlight and trusting in the Lord, are two very important laws of health. And I think you've got a couple of others, Dr. Thrash.
Yes, in fact, I've got a number of more, but I would like to start right away by talking about exercise. The subject of exercise is such an important one that if we know about exercise and we do exercise, then this can help us to cover a lot of other broken health laws. Just the fact that we exercise strengthens us in a number of ways. And besides that, exercise is enjoyable. That is, if we're accustomed to doing exercise. Now, if we're normally a couch potato, it's going to be difficult for us to get out of doors and move around. But if we're accustomed to moving, then to get up and get out is going to be something that makes us feel good. And just to feel good, even when we're sick or when we have been sick, if we begin to move around, we will just naturally feel a lot better. And then the fact that the immune system goes up with exercise, this is something that can be actually measured, so that we can have people to do various kinds of exercise. We can check the number of T cells they have, the number of killer cells that they have, and these go up with the amount of exercise that we do. And just as with sunshine, getting exercise will make the cellular portions of the immune system much more active. They move more rapidly. They also become more hungry, so that when they see a germ, they go there, they take the germ, and they destroy the germ. So to assist the immune system in this way can be very helpful to you in warding off disease, not only of the body, but also of the mind. The immune system, of course, has to do with such things as depression and warding that off, or even schizophrenia and the various serious forms of mental illness, because of the fact that people with these kinds of illnesses don't live as long as those who do not have those illnesses unless they work at these natural laws of health in a very serious and determined way. Now, exercise can be too much so that we can overdo the matter. And it's an interesting thing that when we overdo exercise, we actually reduce the functioning of the immune system. So we want to be careful about that. As to how often we should exercise, I can give you a quote: let some portion of every day be spent in outdoor exercise. And having the exercise out of doors is more favorable than having the same amount of exercise and the same quality of exercise indoors. Now, in addition to exercise, there is another aspect of this matter, and that's this matter of prevention of disease. That is water. So frequently, people get sick because they don't drink enough water. One of the simple things that people get is they simply don't feel strong. They feel tired, or they have lassitude that just saps their energy. And because of this, they want to stay indoors. They want to just read or do some kind of indoor game, or just sit and shell beans, or whatever they can do inside, rather than getting up and moving. And when they move, they have so many good benefits that water plays right into this, that the amount of water that we take gets us over many an illness that we otherwise would have. Now, water is the most abundant element on this planet apart from air, and has been made by a loving and all-wise designer to be the universal solvent. And while it won't dissolve everything, it certainly does dissolve a lot of things, and most of those things that are inside the body, it does dissolve those. It acts as a vehicle for the transport of quite a lot of wastes and raw products and nutrients that come into the body. It also is the vehicle for the transport of oxygen and other forms of gases that we require so much in the human body. Wastes are also carried on this vehicle, the vehicle of water, and the various organs of the body, including the skin, are kept healthy. The joints are kept mobile and strong and gliding nicely because of plenty of water. So use this universal solvent to good advantage. And now we have another one, and that is air. Air is a precious boon of heaven. And Dr. Miller, what can you tell us about air?
You know, we can be very thankful if we live in an area where we do have good air. I've been in countries, this is like Tokyo, Japan. Many times the policemen will have stations they can go to and put on a mask and breathe oxygen because there's just not that much around because of all the pollutions and the exhaust that surround them all the time. But air is an extremely beneficial thing that God has given to us, and He's given it to us in exceeding abundance. Now, thinking about air, when and where are you when it just feels the best as far as the air around you? Let me put this a different way. How do you feel when you go to the beach when there's waves coming in? Or how do you feel when you are near a waterfall? Or how does it feel to walk outside after a storm? All of these things are doing something very special to the air. They are releasing negative air ions. Now, an ion is basically a molecule that has either gained or lost its electronic charge. And these things are extremely sedating and soothing to the body. And so what we need to do is get plenty of negative air ions. Now, I've already mentioned where you can get those, some of the places around moving water, whether it's rapids, waterfall, ocean surf. You can get them after a storm. You ever smell the air after a storm? It just smells cleaner. It's because it's full of negative air ions. You can get it amongst evergreen trees. I once heard an inspired person say that there is healing in the balsam and in the pine. Just breathing the air in this area. There's also negative air ions in natural settings, out in the forest, out in the woods, up in the mountains. You're going to find your negative air ions. But on the same turn, there are things that destroy these negative air ions. One is recirculated air. We live in houses and work in buildings now that have no windows that will open. Everything is recirculated. They're recirculating positive air ions, which cause depression, which causes mood swings, which causes headaches, and many other problems. And so recirculated air. Pollution decreases negative air and adds positive air ions. Cigarette smoke will do the same thing. So what we need to do is get out into nature, get away from the cities, get out into the country and breathe the good fresh air. Now, along with the air, well, I want to add one last thing to the air part. At nighttime, no matter how cold it is outside, you should always have fresh air in your bedroom. Turn down the heat, pile on the covers, open up the window. Now, we're not talking about opening it all the way. Open it just enough to get enough air circulating in your room. Otherwise, you're going to wake up feeling a little bit drugged, perhaps a little bit grouchy. A lot of problems come down the pike because we have not gotten adequate amounts of air at nighttime when we are sleeping. Now, in saying that, at nighttime, besides sleeping, we're doing something else. We're always sweating. That's how we stay cool. And so as we sweat, we let off that moisture. And so going back to the sunshine thing, every once in a while when you got a nice sunny, low humidity day, take your mattress outside and get it aired out. You're going to find that you're going to sleep a whole lot better after that experience. There's another part of the A that we're looking at besides air. It is attitude. Our attitude has a lot to do with how we feel. There was a recent study done by Kansas State University that basically showed that people who are always grouchy get sick more and are sick longer. The Bible says a merry heart does good like a medicine. Find something to be thankful for. I learned an extremely good principle some years ago. It's called the law of reciprocal influence. Basically, biblically it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. My recommendation is when you wake up grouchy, here's what you do. You sing praises to the Lord. Sing a hymn, sing a happy song, and you're going to find that your mood starts to rise. But it's people who are always angry, who are always sick, are going to be the ones that are always grouchy and discontented with life. Be happy. And if you're going to be happy, you're also going to find yourself being well. There's a lot to do about attitude with good health, Dr. Thrash.
Yes, there is. And in addition to attitude, we could say that rest. Rest from a number of things. It's not just rest from labor, but it's also rest from noise. It's rest from food sometimes. You take a small rest from food, and that gives you a good overall rest. If you turn off a whirring machine of some kind, the relief that you get is a kind of rest. And so that can be very helpful to you. We need sometimes a rest from people so that we can commune with God. And don't forget that you have essentially a person in your automobile in the form of the radio. Some people get in the car, turn the ignition, and the radio comes on, so that they're never really alone. And that time when they could be in their vehicle communing with God, they lose because the radio is on, and that's a constant presence of someone else with them. Now, rest can be rest from our activities, our secular activities, once a week so that we have a Sabbath rest. What an important time for a human being to take that rest from all secular activities and live in a holy atmosphere for a whole day. What a privilege that is. Now, as we're going through these things, I am beginning to recognize that that you have arranged these, Dr. Miller, in such a way that these things that we're talking about spell a word.
Yes, they do.
And I'm delighted to see that it is. Would you like to show what we've got there?
We have sunshine, trusting in the Lord, exercise, water, air and attitude, rest. That's as far as we've gotten so far. Let's keep going. Diet and dress. A lot of things to do with diet and dress. Self-control, hygiene or cleanliness and herbs, innocence or a clear conscience, and then the last one would be purity of life. And don't we need more of that in this world that we're living in, Dr. Thrass? So we have the acronym stewardship. God has given us bodies, and he says, you're stewards. Paul says in Romans 12:1, present your bodies a living sacrifice, and we are stewards over this body.
Oh, yes. And a part of that is diet, and you want to put the D in now. Diet is is a topic that we need to very clearly understand.
I'm going to be very short with the diet part. 3ABN talks a lot about diets, and we have cooking schools and everything else. I want to read you one case history. You can do a search on the internet and look up a man by the name of Thomas Parr. He was born in 1483. He was born to a farmer there in England, and he sort of tooled along. He went out as a tradesman sometime during that time. In the year 1563, he got married for the first time. He was 80 years old. He fathered 2 children. Time went on. His first wife, having died by the time he was 120, he married the second time, had another child. He kept on going, and he was doing great, living on a very simple, abstemious diet. And he was a very simple diet out there in the farm, working on the farm. He was still working his fields when he's in his 130s and 140s. But at 153 years of age, he was discovered by the earl that sort of was over the land on which he lived. And he didn't know this guy was living there. He says, wow, wait till the king sees this man. And so he took Thomas Parr to the king's palace there in London, and he says, I want you to meet this man and this guy. Can you imagine the stories this guy would tell? You see, the king on the throne at the time was the 10th monarch since Thomas had been born. So 10 monarchs had passed. The guy's mind was completely intact. He was great stories. They enjoyed him so much that night the king says, look, come and live in the castle with me and eat at my table and just live a good life from now on out. And the guy says, good idea. He did. 2 weeks later, he was dead. Upon autopsy, they found his internal organs to be the organs of a young man, except for one problem: they were extremely inflamed. It was the diet, the inflammatory diet of the rich foods and the rich drinks that put the man who 153 years that could not kill, put him in the grave after 2 short weeks. Diet. Dr. Thrass, the foods that we eat are extremely important.
They're very inflammatory, that's for certain. Then also in D is the matter of dress. Dress can be helpful or unhelpful. One of the ways that it's unhelpful is that it's too tight. It can be too tight in the waist, around the knees, around the ankles, around the wrists, around the upper arms. Anywhere that a garment is so tight that it leaves a red streak when the garment is removed, that is, of course, too tight. Then it can be inadequate for proper warmth. A lot of people, for one reason or other, expose their extremities, and that leads to a reduction in the efficiency of the immune system. And so with these things, there's one other thing that you need to know, and that's modesty. Modest dress relieves a lot of anxiety and sense of inhibition that a person does not have when one has completely modest dress. So I recommend these things for the D part. And now let's go to self-control. Dr. Miller.
Self-control, you know, we normally when we talk about self-control, we talk about don't smoke and don't drink and don't take drugs, and these are extremely important. But there are other areas of our life where we need self-control. I would say probably one of the runaway problems with us in today's, especially Western world, is something as simple as overeating or eating too many things at a meal. We need to be under control in all that we do. You know, it's amazing. You see somebody training for the Olympics, and they train diligently. They've got to the point where they can slow their pulse rate, they can slow their respiration down on command because they want to win that little piece of gold. And here we are with streets of gold in which to gain. We need to do the same type of training. Paul says, I keep my body under. And we need to under control, under self-control, that everything that we do might be to the glory of God. As a matter of fact, the Bible says that whatsoever you eat, whatsoever you drink, whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. Self-control, extremely important.
And then a part of the H is herbs. Herbs are provided by a loving Creator, and if we learn about the herbs, there are many of them that can help us to get over disease without taking any kind of serious life-threatening drug. And now we have two more things. And Dr. Miller, you want to tell us about two more things?
Very quickly. Talk about hygiene. And quickly, I'll just give you another case history. A doctor from Hungary named Semmelweis, a good friend, cut his finger while doing an autopsy, and he died of the same diseases killing the women in the hospitals. And he thought, I think what the problem is, we're transferring the diseases from the corpses to the women that we're delivering. So he came up with a very simple solution. Why don't we wash our hands between patients? And as soon as he did, death rates fell. As a matter of fact, the midwife hospital near them had nowhere near the death rate that the regular hospital did who went through these things. The other one is things like innocence. The clear conscience. You know, when we feel guilt, we are hurting our immune system. So we need to make sure we have a conscience, the Bible says, void of offense. And the last one is purity of life. We need to look at things that will give us pure thoughts, listen to things that will give us pure thoughts. And quite frankly, we are surrounded in a world that is steeped in impurity. God is looking for a pure people, a special people in these last days. And as we do these laws of health, God's 14 laws of health, we're going to find that we're far better able to help our fellow man, help ourselves, and to give glory to God.
Now, all of these 14 laws of health are very clearly defined by nature and by reason. So we hope that you have studied these very carefully, that you might prevent disease and then not have to worry so much about learning how to treat disease once it has occurred.